Hello and welcome to Aging Insights. I'm Kathy Rowe, Executive Director of New Jersey Advocates for Aging Well. And today we have two guests to talk about an exciting program they're running up in Bergen County. We have EJ Vizzi, social worker and the Director of Senior Programming, along with Alexandra Kritikos, social worker and community outreach and development specialist, both from the Brightside family. The Brightside family is a nonprofit that provides affordable housing, affordable assisted living, and support services for the changing needs and preferences of low and moderate income older residents. Brightside is also the founder and the parent organization of our partners at Age Friendly Teaneck. So EJ and Alexandra, I welcome you both here today. I'm happy that you're with us.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
So, could you start off just telling us a little bit about the program, how it came to be, and what it does?
Yeah, so our program that we're going to be talking about today is the Senior Checks program. And so that's a money management program, which MMP is sometimes an acronym that you may see if you're searching social services. And so money management programs can really help people with day-to-day services with their daily money management. And so that's regular banking, balancing their bills, paying those bills, kind of just sorting through their mail and figuring out what is important, what maybe needs to be saved away for later, what needs to be addressed immediately, and what might be junk. And so really managing those kind of banking tasks or paper tasks is the real crux of what Senior Checks can do with people and for people. And so the way we kind of came about bringing this program to Bergen County was we have many other programs within our organization. And really, the anecdotal evidence of need that people were showing with trying to apply to programs when they're hearing about certain things, they don't know where to grab that piece of paper, or realizing that maybe Medicare and Medicaid is listed under CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, but maybe they filed it under C because it starts with a center. And so certain things like that we were coming across a lot. And we realized there wasn't an option for people to reach those money management services here in the county. So we have a lot of partners in our community. We're very fortunate, especially through our Age Friendly Teaneck initiative and through some of our other programs. You know, we reached out to our geriatric case management agencies locally and just asked them, you know, what specific type of hands-on assistance can be offered to clients who are struggling with money management challenges or just financial challenges in general. And far and away, the options seem to be they wished that there was a program or that there are private for-profit bill-paying assistance companies which charge fees that may be out of reach for low and moderate income older adults, or maybe just weren't, palatable to some of those who are already struggling to figure out whether they can afford certain things. And so we reached out to our local Bergen County ADRC, and so they're also our AAA, the Area Agencies on Aging. And for us in this county, that's through our Division on Senior Services. And they actually had what they call money management taxonomy that no one was offering the services for. And fortunately, we saw the RFP out for all county agencies to apply to. And we had been receiving some funding for our other programs. But after hearing some of the needs, after encountering, assistance that maybe we've been doing informally for some people, we felt comfortable and confident that we can bring a more formalized program to the people of Bergen County through this funding. And so, we had applied, we were fortunate in getting approved for it, and they helped us hit the ground running and piloting it off the ground.
No. So you saw the need in your own clients, but it sounds like they also had to recognize the need. So this must be a pretty widespread issue or need among older residents?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, the phrase that we use in social services or maybe everywhere is you don't know what you don't know, right? And so if no one is coming to you and, inquiring about that, or you don't even realize that that's something you can ask for help for, how can we help ourselves and our partners offer that to our residents who didn't realize that this is something that they don't have to do alone.
Yeah.
They're not the only ones struggling with this concern and concept, and that if you do put yourself out there a little bit, we can help you.
Okay. So without giving away anything that's private, can you tell us about some of your clients, how it's helped them and what exactly they're encountering?
Yeah, so I'm just going to pass through a little bit. So once we did get funding from the ADRC about it, we did hire on Alexandra Kritikos, and she really is our boots on the ground social worker. She talks to our clients and our volunteers through it. So I'm going to have Alexandra answer that question.
Thanks.
Great, thank you so much. I'm just going to share my screen. So just to reiterate kind of some of the things that EJ was saying, the types of things that we help with really can vary. It can be as simple as going through the mail and figuring out, what's a bill that needs to be owed, or maybe what's junk and needs to be thrown away, or it can be more involved. It can be settling debts, light budgeting. We've helped people reconcile things that they didn't even know that they owed, or maybe people are paying for something like a subscription that they don't even use or realize that they're subscribed to. And just having that extra set of eyes really helps. We even can help fill out forms, paperwork, prepare checks. We, of course, don't have volunteer sign checks. Making phone calls. And then really, like EJ mentioned, you don't know what you don't know. And I think the main and best part of the program is, one, that you're having access to an organization with social workers who can connect you to all the different great resources out there, and there really are so many, as well as the social connection that comes from meeting with the volunteer and meeting with the social worker or the program coordinator who's running the program.
So can you tell us a little bit about the enrollment process and how you start off with clients, what the structure is?
Yes. So a lot of clients are referred to us from different organizations, maybe care management organizations, senior centers. Also, we do a lot of outreach. And so we try to go where they are and let them know that this program is available to them. Once somebody is interested, they speak with me. Typically, we chat about the program, make sure it's a good fit. And then I schedule an intake with them where we do like a mini biopsychosocial almost, where we kind of just get a holistic view of what they need. They can answer as much or as little as they'd like. And, a lot of times we, get to find out about the different types of programs they need, which is how we connect them to other things. During the intake, we typically do meet in a client's home because I have to assess, the home before sending a volunteer there. All matches, I would say like 95% of matches do meet in the client's home. We do have a few outliers who utilize community spaces. I've even done an intake before in a Dunkin' Donuts when somebody didn't want to meet in their house. So, the program is very flexible. But if a volunteer is going to go to a client's home, we've, of course, vet it first. During the intake, we typically just ask questions about their support system, what their financial picture looks like. It could take anywhere from an hour. Sometimes if there's a lot to say, you could spend 2 hours. It just depends on the client. Once we kind of have a good picture of what they need, that's when we, try to make the best, most appropriate match for them. And then we facilitate the first meeting. We don't attend the first meeting, but we facilitate the scheduling. The client and volunteer meet in the home, and then I speak to both people right after just to make sure everything went smoothly, that they're both happy. And if so, then they continue making the schedule together, and they submit tracking sheets. The volunteer submits tracking sheets to us each month, and we speak constantly just to provide oversight on the program. So we have some examples of the types of cases that we see and the types of people that we help through the program. It really does, like I said, it varies greatly. So for example, we'll start off with our gentleman He's been on the program for over 2 years at this point. He's 94 years old. He's sharp as a tack. He actually was referred to us through a local senior center. He was coming in and, asking staff there to kind of help him look at some paperwork he was getting because he had a reverse mortgage. And in his situation, his wife became extremely ill. It depleted their funds and they had this reverse mortgage. And as everything's gone up in price, he just wasn't able to budget and manage paying his taxes. And so he was at risk of losing his home. This is a 94-year-old man. He's a Holocaust survivor. He worked his entire life. He immigrated here in his 30s. And after joining the program, his volunteer, this is a case that it was a bit more extensive. The volunteer is meeting with him sometimes up to 10 hours a week at the beginning to kind of get things organized and figure out, how to keep it in his home, what programs are out there that he could utilize to get money back in his pocket. She actually discovered that he was eligible to get reparations from the German government that he was entitled to and wasn't receiving, signed him up for energy assistance, SNAP, and, all that money back in his pocket made it feel more feasible for him to start to kind of pay what he owes. They were able to call the mortgage company and set up a payment plan. And, this was all possible, really, thanks to the help of the program. I mean, he was coming in just to show paperwork that he was confused about, and we uncovered all of these things. We helped him get access to a safety deposit box that he hadn't been able to touch in like 5 or 6 years. So having that dedicated volunteer, I mean, he calls her like his daughter, he feels. They have a really great relationship, and she's been so dedicated to him. And now the good news for him is that he's able to stay in his home. He's able to remain independent. And it's all thanks to the help of this volunteer. The next case I'll talk about, so it's a little bit different. This woman that we're going to speak about initially reached out because she just wanted some help paying her bills. It was hard for her to read through the mail. Sounded simple enough. But upon working with her, the volunteer actually discovered that she had fallen victim to an online catfishing scam.
Oh, no.
So the Surgeon General has declared that there's a loneliness epidemic. We know, especially after COVID, how lonely people are, and especially our seniors are. And so unfortunately, things like this do happen. And, people want to talk on the phone, they make friends on the phone, or they feel comfortable and give out their information. Or in this case, catfishing is when you think that you're speaking to a friend or maybe a romantic partner, and they gain your trust and you give them, gift cards or information. And so when we discovered this, luckily, because she was working with the program, we discovered it fast enough that we were able to reconcile the money, get the money back, switch her accounts, switch where her Social Security was being routed to. And really avoid a disaster, because this is a client who's on Medicaid, who doesn't have a ton of money to, pay rent and things like that. And so getting their account wiped out could be months of missed rent. Mm-hmm. So beside the fact that they settled that, the social isolation piece, I think that she's less likely to fall into these types of scams now. And she's been doing well in the program for over a year after. And I think it has to do, of course, not entirely with the program, but I think having somebody that cares for you and comes and checks up on you and somebody to talk to, it does make you less likely to maybe fall into those types of things.
I think that's really important because it sounds like people who are feeling isolated and lonely are more likely to pick up the phone. They want a conversation, and they're more, I guess, gullible or susceptible to a scam.
Right. And it's human nature. I mean, we're social beings. We're not meant to be alone for long periods of time. And so, right. It's not a knock to someone's intelligence or, this can happen to anybody. It's just when you're put in this kind of scenario, which we're not really meant to be in, right? Things can happen. And so the social piece of this program, I think, is is so vital to the program.
Mhm.
And even in cases that are more simple than, like, for example, the one we're talking about, maybe somebody meets for 8 months and they really do just go through the mail. But if something comes up, now they have somebody to call or somebody to, bounce a question off of. In her case, she does have a child, but they live across the country. They're in the middle of their career. They have small children. And, they miss sometimes things that might be going on with mom or dad. And, in this case, myself, the volunteer, and the child all work together to kind of piece together what, mom needs. So this program, we work with people with no family. We work with people who do have family. Sometimes it's the kids themselves who call and say, when I visit my mom on Sunday, I just want to be with mom. I don't want to go through all the mail. I just want to catch up with my mom.
Yeah.
Which brings me to our next case. So we have a centennial on the program.
That's great.
Yes, very cool. She drives, she lives alone in her home, she's fiercely independent, and she has great family support. She has grandkids, adult children, they're all involved, they're all over there all the time. But because she's that matriarch and fiercely independent, it was a little bit tough for her to admit to her family that I actually do need help. I don't understand this, explanation of benefits I got in from my insurance, or I don't know if I paid my bill last month. I can't remember really. It's slipping me. So despite being surrounded, by children and grandchildren, she recognized that she did need some help with this program, and she started utilizing a woman who was volunteering with her in another capacity through a program that does grocery services and things like that. And this volunteer reached out to me and said, I'm helping this lady who's my friend, but I want to do it under the umbrella of your organization, because our organization, and I'll get to this a little bit later on, but just briefly, we train our volunteers. There's checks and balances. We have an extensive tracking system that we'll talk later about. And so, they felt more comfortable, both the client and the volunteer, knowing that there's a third party involved, meeting under, again, the umbrella of our organization. And so, we tell people, you might say, oh, my neighbor does that. Okay, great. Sign up for the program. Or maybe your neighbor's, not always going to be reliable. Something could come up in their life. And then if they can't help you, now what? It's good to be tied to a legitimate, structured program.
Yeah.
And so they don't do anything crazy. They meet once a week. They have coffee, they chit chat, and they go through the mail. Okay. And then lastly, another example of somebody we help is a lady who is living alone in an apartment. She's on the younger side of the senior spectrum, but she has been legally blind since she's in her 20s. And for much of her life, she managed. She's been an advocate for the community. She is a pillar of support to other people in her community, and kind of similar to the woman we previously spoke about, a little bit hard for her to kind of acknowledge, I do need help. I need help too. Same kind of situation as we hear. She does have a child, newly married, in the height of his, up and coming in his career, I should say. And that same feeling of not wanting to be the B word, the burden, not wanting to ask for help. And so, when she heard about this program, she was like so relieved. When we spoke on the phone the first time, I could hear the anxiety, leaving her, that there was somebody who could come and help her just do the basic things, pay the bills she needs to pay, do the things she needs to do, and it not take her, 5 hours when it could take an hour, because of the visual impairment. And so a perfect example of somebody on the surface who has it really all together. You think they're so strong, and they are so strong, but you think they're so strong they don't need help. Mm-hmm. But oftentimes it's those people who, really do need the services. And,
right.
Everyone we're speaking about, each one of them, I can't think of, maybe there's a handful of people on the program in total who we've not referred to other services. So once you start working with a program, you start to find out all the other things that are available to you. You know, the free services. So many people, we sign up for benefits and enrollments programs. You know, they don't think they qualify, and maybe they don't qualify for one, but they qualify for some of the others that have higher income limits. So it's really just getting, you know, the foot in the door to opening up to the world of services.
Well, that's really impressive, because I guess if people, they don't know what they don't know, and if they are not aware of other things that could help them, you're really connecting them with a lot of other social services, benefits, and those can go a long way to making it affordable for people to stay in their home.
Exactly, right. And, you know, when you're at this age and maybe living on a fixed income, maybe living off Social Security in a small pool of money, those little savings really could add up. You know, that could be a trip to the grocery store. That could be a present for their grandchild.
Yeah.
So,
And especially in so many, the eligibility level has gone up on so many of the New Jersey programs, like the hearing aid programs, the prescription assistance. And I remember before COVID, a lot of older adults weren't interested in applying for SNAP because it was only $16 a month. Now it's $95 a month. It's worth applying for. So the eligibility keeps changing too. Maybe somebody looked at it years ago and thought, it's not worth the paperwork, or I don't qualify, but now they might.
that's exactly right, Kathy. I hear that, you know, weekly. Oh, I don't qualify for that. And then I'm like, actually, now you do. Or, you know, some people, I can't be bothered doing the application. For example, like the energy assistance, they think, oh, it's just a small credit. And I'm like, okay, you know, I get you don't want to do it, but I'll sit with you and I'll do it. And then they're like, okay, let's do it. So, and why not, right? I mean, these people deserve it. They're eligible for it. Why not utilize what's out there? And a lot of times that's part of the volunteer role too. You know, we tell people that they're eligible for things and they're not quite ready. There's stigma around maybe accepting things. And it takes patience and time that comes with, you know, a relationship like what happens with the volunteer, where people do kind of start to ease into, okay, I can sign up for that, or, oh, okay, that sounds good, and not feel guilty.
So you told us about your participants, and can you tell us about your volunteers? Where are you finding these people, and how are they trained?
Yes, so I will just put this up on the screen for a moment, and I'll take it down. But all of our volunteers, they undergo an extensive vetting process to be on the program. And we find most of our volunteers through Bergen Volunteers, which is a great organization or program also in the county, but also through word of mouth. I do outreach, and so sometimes, you know, the people in the room don't need the services, but they do it in their own life and they want to give back and help. Most of our volunteers are actually seniors themselves. A lot of them are newly retired. Many come from the professional world, retired social workers, retired accountants. And again, you know, we say money management, but it's not financial planning. It's not telling you, you know, how to spend your money. It's doing the stuff that we all have to do to just maintain our lives. And in this case, it's to help the older adults age in place, age in their home. So, you know, it's nothing complicated. It's paying your PSE&G bill. It's you know, dealing with the doctor, with the one-off doctor bill that comes in because your other bills are automated and something random comes in. And so the volunteers, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen.
So yeah, it's not complicated for our volunteers who maybe have been doing this more recently, but it can become complicated for, you know, those who are starting to decline in their abilities, or maybe they haven't touched it for a number of years. Maybe they were dependent on their partner or their spouse, and they were the ones who were managing it, and now their spouse is either unable to do it or is no longer, you know, with them. And so really, we see the ensuite of different types of clients who are coming in and volunteers. We even had a homemaker, you know, she didn't have a career her entire life, but she had taken care of her family home, made sure, you know, everything was taken care of within the, under her roof. And then when, you know, her children have grown, her spouse had passed, she would still wanted to keep doing that. In her mind, it was easy for her to keep, you know, track of her life, but how can she maybe help another family who might need such services? And so kind of volunteering and helping that way. I'm sorry, Alexandra, I think maybe you had something you wanted to continue saying.
No, I was going to pretty much say similar things. And to be honest, when you're working with volunteers and clients, you're almost like a matchmaker. So if somebody has, bigger projects going on and something that's a little bit more extensive, you match them with a volunteer who wants to give 10 hours, or maybe who does have, the background. We have a retired lawyer, we have 2 retired social workers. So, in some cases that's a better match. And then sometimes, you have somebody, like I mentioned before, who just needs to go through the mail. And, all of our volunteers, I should say most people, can help with that. And I think the great thing about the volunteer and client relationship is they're always working with the same person. So that's key. They get matched with one person. Of course, unless there's a reason to be that it doesn't work out, they work with that person over and over again, periodically.
Nice.
And sometimes the first few sessions, they don't even get into things. It depends, it depends on the client. Some clients are like, let's get into it. Some, need to warm up a little bit, rightfully so, because it's such an intimate topic, your finances. And
I'm sure there's people that they also don't want their family to know all the details. Sometimes it's easier to talk to someone who's objective and one step removed and isn't going to, judge you or say something like, oh, I can't believe you made this mistake, or you spent how much on whatever. It's nice to have someone who's, just
kind of third party and not looking at your finances line by line.
Right.
Definitely.
But this sounds like such a useful program and such an important one. And I'm wondering, how can others replicate this if they wanted to do this in their community, in their neighborhood? What do you suggest?
Yeah, I think, a lot of organizations that we either partner with or that we talk to, or just agencies, or just anyone who is helping, right? Others who are helping others. The main thing right now is we want to maintain independence. We want to promote self-sufficiency. We want to encourage aging in place, right? We want to make sure people are staying in the homes that they consider their home, their community. And so we would love for, this money management program concept to expand and grow, and for many people to take on, because I think there's just so many people who want to just be fiercely independent, who want to continue doing the things that they do, but with a little bit of oomph, with a little bit of support and flair and, assistance. So we actually are happy to help people kind of conceive the idea in their community, and share some of our forms. We have together a toolkit of sorts where we can share with you our different volunteer resources, in sharing, what our application looks like, the handbook that we share with our volunteers, our participant resources, what's signed by them, what, privacy protections we have in place, policies that we have so that they know the information that we're gathering from them isn't being shared out. And of course, just like any ideas, key features that come up, questions that may come up. We piloted this program 3 years ago. We're entering, as the new calendar year comes up, into our 4th year. And so it's kind of incredible, what we thought we were going to be doing in the beginning, because you always come in with a preconceived notion, and just what it evolves into, and just, tweaking along the way. And we want to make sure that, there are lessons learned, and maybe some people may make those same mistakes, or maybe through conversation, we can help them avoid that.
Wow. Do you know at this point how many people that you've helped or you reached out to?
Yes. So, starting in 2022 was our pilot year. I don't have the number exactly of how many people we served that year, but the service units, so the amount of hours of help that we gave, was around 675. Now, wow. Compare that to the past year, we're at over 1,300 hours, not counting the month of December yet. We have 65 participants, we'll call them, that we've helped through the program. 21 volunteers, our volunteer force is made of 21 people right now. Right now, we have 27 matches meeting, meaning that people are meeting on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. And then EJ and myself, someone has like a project that's maybe smaller that doesn't need the attention of a full volunteer, we take on the role of the volunteer and do what we call them one-offs.
Wow.
Or sometimes 2 or 3 offs or whatever it may be. But, we work with that client if it's not going to be something that.
Wow, that's incredible and great work. So if other people wanted to reach out, we'll put your contact information on the screen here.
Yeah, they can reach out to seniorchecks@agefriendlyteaneck.org.
Okay.
Right. And like EJ mentioned, those, materials that we've made, those took us a couple of months in the beginning to make, the volunteer trainings, the procedures, the flyers. So if another organization was interested in, doing this program, they can kind of hit the ground running. And of course, we would share our materials with them and let them pick our brains on how their organization could do it.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, not only for joining us today, but thank you for doing this and taking this on. It is such a great program, and it's nice to hear how many people you've helped, not just with their checking, but it sounds like you've helped to form real social connections and partnerships up there. And I really hope that other people can, bring it to their communities or volunteer to help in yours.
Yeah, we do it for the seniors, they've built the foundation of a society for us to be able to thrive in, right? And so how can we give back to those who are already given?
I want to thank EJ and Alexandra for joining us today to talk about their great program. You can watch this and all other episodes of Aging Insights on our website at njaaw.org/aginginsights.